Connor Walsh grabbed Maya Johnson by her braids and slammed her face first into the lockers of Riverside Academy. The metal rang like a bell. Her books exploded across the floor. 200 students watched. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Connor leaned down and whispered in her ear, "Wrong school, wrong hallway, wrong skin color. Go back to the ghetto where you belong." Maya's forehead was bleeding. Her hands were shaking. But when she lifted her head, she wasn't crying. She was smiling. Because Connor Walsh had just made the biggest mistake of his life. The girl he had just brutalized wasn't just any scholarship student from the wrong side of town. She was the 3-time California State Karate Champion. And in exactly 2 weeks, Connor Walsh would be lying on this same floor begging her for mercy, while the whole school watched. If you want to see how this satisfying story unfolds, subscribe to our channel and watch until the very end. Drop a comment telling us which city you're watching from so we can see how far Maya's story has traveled. Blood dripped from Maya's forehead onto the polished floor. She could feel it running down the side of her face, warm and wet. The hallway had gone completely silent. 200 students stood frozen, their phones raised, recording every second of her humiliation. Connor Walsh stood over her like a conquering king. His ice blue eyes were bright with excitement. This was what he lived for. This was his favorite game. "Look at that," he said loudly, playing to his audience. "The scholarship girl bleeds just like everyone else. Maybe darker, though. Hard to tell." His crew laughed. Jake Miller, Madison Cole, Tyler Brooks. They always laughed. Maya pressed her palm against the cut on her forehead. It wasn't deep. She'd had worse in training, much worse. But as she knelt there on that cold floor, surrounded by strangers who saw her as entertainment, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Rage, pure, white-hot rage. Her body knew what to do. 15 years of training had made the response automatic. She could sweep Connor's legs out from under him before he even registered the movement. She could break his arm in 3 places. She could make him scream. But then she heard her mother's voice as clear as if Denise Johnson was standing right beside her. "Promise me, baby girl. Promise me you'll be more than your fists." Maya closed her eyes. She breathed in through her nose, out through her mouth. She let the rage flow through her and out of her just like her father had taught her. When she opened her eyes, she was calm again. She stood up slowly. Her movements were controlled, deliberate. Blood was still dripping down her face, but she didn't wipe it away. She let it drip. Let them see what Connor Walsh had done. "Cat got your tongue." Connor stepped closer, trying to provoke another reaction. "Come on, say something, cry, beg, do something." Maya looked at him, really looked at him. She saw a boy who had never been told no in his entire life. A boy who had never faced a consequence he couldn't buy his way out of. A boy who thought his father's money made him invincible. She saw weakness dressed up as strength. "No," Maya said quietly. Connor blinked. "No what?" "No. I won't cry. No, I won't beg. No, I won't give you what you want." Maya picked up her books one by one, her movements unhurried despite the blood still running down her face. "Is that all you've got? Connor Walsh hair pulling in cheap shots? That's the best you can do?" The hallway rippled with whispered shock. Nobody talked to Connor Walsh like that. Nobody. Connor's face went red. He stepped forward, his fist raised. "Connor." Jake grabbed his arm. "Teachers are coming. We gotta go." Connor shook off Jake's hand, but he didn't throw the punch. Instead, he leaned in close to Maya, so close she could smell his expensive cologne. "This isn't over," he whispered. "Not even close. By the time I'm done with you, you'll be begging to go back to whatever ghetto they dragged you out of. And trust me, nobody here is going to help you. Nobody cares about girls like you." He walked away, his crew following like obedient dogs. The crowd parted for them. Of course it did. The crowd always parted for Connor Walsh. Maya stood alone in the middle of the hallway, blood drying on her face, her books clutched to her chest. She could feel everyone staring at her, judging her, waiting to see what she would do next. She walked to the nearest bathroom without saying a word. The bathroom was empty. Maya locked herself in the last stall and finally allowed herself to feel the pain. Her forehead throbbed where it had hit the locker. Her scalp ached where Connor had grabbed her braids. Her pride burned with humiliation. But underneath all of that, something else was growing. Something cold and hard and patient. Determination. Maya pulled out her phone and opened the camera. She took photos of her injuries from multiple angles. The cut on her forehead. The red marks on her scalp where her hair had been pulled. The bruises already forming on her shoulder where she'd hit the metal. She created a new folder on her phone and labeled it Evidence. Then she cleaned herself up as best she could and went to class. Mrs. Henderson's English class was already in session when Maya walked in. Every head turned to look at her. The cut on her forehead had stopped bleeding, but the wound was still visible, angry and red against her dark skin. Mrs. Henderson's eyes widened. "Miss Johnson, are you all right? What happened to your face?" Maya felt the weight of the entire classroom watching her. She saw Connor Walsh in the back row, leaning back in his chair, with a smug smile on his face. She saw his crew around him waiting to see if she would snitch. "I tripped," Maya said. "Hit my head on a locker. I'm fine." She walked to the only empty seat in the front row and sat down. She didn't look back at Connor. She didn't give him the satisfaction. Mrs. Henderson didn't look convinced, but she let it go. "Well, we were just discussing the themes of justice and moral courage in To Kill a Mockingbird. Miss Johnson, since you're new, would you like to share your thoughts?" Maya felt Connor's eyes boring into the back of her head. She knew he was waiting for her to stumble, to show weakness, to prove that his intimidation had worked. "Justice is complicated," Maya said, her voice steady and clear. "Atticus Finch fights for what's right, even though he knows the system is rigged against him. Even though he knows he'll probably lose. Because sometimes the fight itself is what matters. Sometimes standing up even when you're standing alone is the only way to keep your soul intact." The classroom was silent. "That's very insightful," Mrs. Henderson said slowly. "Can you elaborate?" Maya turned in her seat and looked directly at Connor Walsh. Their eyes met across the classroom. "The people with power always think they're untouchable," Maya said, still holding Connor's gaze. "They think money and connections make them invincible. But the truth is nobody's untouchable. Everybody falls eventually. And the higher they climb, the harder they fall." Connor's smile faded. "The key is patience," Maya continued. "You don't have to win every battle. You just have to win the war. And wars are won through strategy, not strength. Through evidence, not emotion. Through persistence, not violence." The classroom erupted in whispers. Even Mrs. Henderson looked startled by the intensity in Maya's voice. Connor's hands curled into fists under his desk. This girl wasn't afraid of him. Even after what he'd done to her in the hallway, she wasn't afraid. She was challenging him. In front of everyone. Nobody challenged Connor Walsh. "Thank you, Miss Johnson," Mrs. Henderson said, clearing her throat. "That was certainly passionate. Now let's move on to Chapter 3. The rest of the class passed in a blur. Maya took notes and answered questions and pretended everything was normal. But she could feel Connor's hatred radiating from the back of the room like heat from a furnace. Good. Let him hate her. Let him underestimate her. Let him think she was just a mouthy scholarship girl with no backup and no protection. He would learn the truth soon enough. The cafeteria was a battlefield with designated territories. Athletes in the center, rich kids by the windows, artists in the corner, everyone else fighting for scraps around the edges. Maya sat alone at a small table near the emergency exit. She had chosen the spot deliberately. One way in, one way out. Clear sight lines to every entrance. Old habits from growing up in a neighborhood where you always needed to know your escape routes. She was eating a sandwich her father had packed that morning when a shadow fell across her table. "Mind if I sit here?" Maya looked up. A small Asian girl stood nervously clutching a lunch tray. She had the look of someone who had been hunted before. Shoulders curved inward, eyes that never stopped moving. The permanent flinch of a chronic victim. "Go ahead," Maya said. The girl sat down quickly, like she expected to be chased away at any moment. "I'm Sophie. Sophie Chen. I saw what happened this morning, in the hallway. You and everyone else. I wanted to tell you something." Sophie leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Connor Walsh is dangerous. Really dangerous. You should transfer out while you still can." Maya took another bite of her sandwich. "Why do you care?" Sophie's hands were shaking. "Because I was you. Last year. I was the new girl who didn't know the rules. I stood up to Connor once. Just once." "What happened?" Sophie's eyes filled with tears. "They destroyed me. Not just Connor. All of them. They put dead rats in my locker. They spread rumors that I was sleeping with teachers for grades. They posted my photo on websites that I can't even talk about. They made my life so miserable that I tried to—" She stopped, swallowed hard. "I tried to hurt myself. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks." Maya set down her sandwich. "Sophie, I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry. Just be smart. You can't beat them. Nobody can." Connor's dad is on the school board. His grandfather is a state senator. His family has donated millions to this school. Principal Morrison would let Connor get away with murder if the price was right. "What about the other victims, Marcus? The other students he targeted?" Sophie laughed bitterly. "Marcus transferred after they carved the N-word into his locker. 2 other black students left before him. A gay kid named Trevor was beaten so badly he needed reconstructive surgery on his face. They called it a locker room accident. Nobody was punished. Nobody ever gets punished." Maya's jaw tightened. "And the security cameras mysteriously malfunction whenever Connor needs them to. Footage gets deleted. Witnesses suddenly forget what they saw. It's all very convenient." Sophie wiped her eyes. "I'm telling you this because you seem different. You didn't cry this morning. You didn't run. You just stood there and took it. But trust me, Maya, that kind of strength just makes Connor want to break you more. It's not about money with him. It's not even about power. He just likes hurting people, especially people who look like they can't be hurt." Maya reached across the table and took Sophie's hand. "Thank you for warning me. Will you transfer?" "No." Sophie stared at her. "Why not?" Maya thought about her mother, about the promise she had made in that hospital room, about the dojo her father had built in one of the roughest neighborhoods in San Diego, teaching kids that strength wasn't about hurting people, but about protecting them. "Because someone has to stop him," Maya said simply. "And maybe that someone is me." Sophie shook her head. "You'll lose. You'll lose everything." "Maybe, but at least I'll lose fighting. That's more than most people can say." Before Sophie could respond, a shadow fell across their table. Connor Walsh stood behind them with his full entourage. Jake, Madison, Tyler, a few other football players whose names Maya didn't know yet. "Well, well," Connor said, his voice dripping with mock friendliness. "The scholarship girl found a friend. 2 losers at one table. How efficient." Sophie went pale. Her hands started shaking again. She looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Maya didn't move. "Can I help you with something?" Connor pulled out a chair and sat down uninvited. His crew formed a semicircle around the table, cutting off any escape route. Standard intimidation tactics. Maya had seen them 1,000 times before. "I've been thinking about you, Maya Johnson," Connor said. "About our little conversation this morning. I think we got off on the wrong foot. You slammed my face into a locker." "Did I?" "I remember it differently. I remember you tripping and hitting your head. Isn't that what you told Mrs. Henderson? Maya said nothing. Connor leaned forward, his smile widening. Here's the thing, Maya. I'm a reasonable guy. I'm willing to forget what happened this morning. The disrespect, the attitude, the little speech you gave in English class. I'm willing to let all of that go. How generous. But I need something from you in return. Maya raised an eyebrow. And what's that respect? Acknowledgement of the natural order. You see, there's a hierarchy at this school. I'm at the top. People like you? He gestured at her worn clothes, her second-hand backpack. People like you are at the bottom. That's just how it works. The sooner you accept that, the easier your life will be. And if I don't accept it? Connor's smile turned cold. Then you'll end up like Marcus, like Trevor, like all the other nobodies who thought they could challenge me. He leaned in closer. I know things about you, Maya. I know your mom is dead. I know your dad runs some pathetic little karate school in the ghetto. I know you're here on charity because your family can't afford the tuition. One phone call to my father and your scholarship disappears. You'll be back in public school by Monday. Sophie was crying silently. Madison was smirking. Jake was cracking his knuckles. Maya looked at Connor Walsh and saw every bully she had ever faced. Every person who had ever tried to make her feel small because of her skin color, her family's income, her mother's death. She saw the face of entitled cruelty, and she felt something inside her go very, very still. You think you know me, Maya said quietly. But you don't know anything. I know enough. No, you really don't. Maya stood up, and something in her posture made Connor's crew take an unconscious step backward. You know my mom is dead, but you don't know that she was the strongest person I ever met. You don't know that she fought cancer for 3 years and never complained, never gave up, never stopped smiling even when the pain was unbearable. You don't know that she made me promise with her last breath that I would use my strength to protect people, not to hurt them. The cafeteria had gone quiet. Students at nearby tables were turning to watch. You know my dad runs a karate school, but you don't know that he was a decorated army sergeant who served 3 tours in Afghanistan. You don't know that he's trained champions, real champions, not entitled little boys who think daddy's money makes them strong. Connor's face was turning red. Watch your mouth, scholarship girl. Or what? You'll hit me again. Go ahead. Hit me right here in front of everyone. Show them who you really are. Maya stepped closer to him, and Connor actually stepped back. You want respect, earn it. You want fear. You'll have to do a lot worse than pull my hair and call me names. I've faced things that would make you cry for your mommy. So go ahead, Connor Walsh. Do your worst. I'm not going anywhere. The silence in the cafeteria was deafening. Connor's hands were shaking. Nobody had ever talked to him like that. Nobody had ever challenged him so publicly, so directly, so fearlessly. He could feel his crew watching him, waiting for him to respond. He could feel his reputation slipping away with every second he didn't put this girl in her place. You're dead, he whispered, his voice trembling with rage. You hear me? You're dead. I've been threatened by people a lot scarier than you, Maya said. I'm still here. She picked up her backpack and walked out of the cafeteria without looking back. Sophie scrambled to follow her, leaving Connor Walsh standing alone in the middle of his own territory, humiliated in front of his crew and half the junior class. Connor! Jake stepped forward cautiously. What do you want to do? Connor's jaw was clenched so tight his teeth ached. I want to destroy her. I want to break her into so many pieces she'll never put herself back together. Madison nodded eagerly. What's the plan? Connor watched Maya Johnson disappear through the cafeteria doors. She walked like she owned the world. She walked like she wasn't afraid of anything. He was going to change that. Tonight, Connor said, we find out everything about her, every secret, every weakness, every person she cares about, and then we make her life a living hell. Maya found an empty classroom and sat down in the dark. Her hands were shaking now that nobody could see. The adrenaline was wearing off, and she could feel the fear she had been suppressing flooding back. What had she done? She had stood up to the most powerful bully in the school. She had challenged him in front of his crew and half the student body. She had made herself the biggest target at Riverside Academy. Her mother would have been proud of the standing up part. But Denise Johnson had also taught her daughter to be smart, and what Maya had just done was definitely not smart. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. "How's day 2 going?" Maya stared at the screen. She could tell him the truth. She could tell him about Connor, about the threats, about the cut on her forehead that she had covered with concealer. Her father would pull her out of this school in a heartbeat if he knew what was happening. But that would mean giving up. That would mean letting Connor win. That would mean abandoning Sophie and Marcus and all the other victims who had come before her. "Going great," she typed back. "Making friends." She put her phone away and took a deep breath. She had 2 weeks before her scholarship review, 2 weeks to survive at Riverside Academy, 2 weeks to find a way to stop Connor Walsh without breaking her promise to her mother, 2 weeks to figure out how to win a war against an enemy with unlimited resources and no conscience. Maya Johnson had faced hard odds before. She had stood in front of opponents twice her size and found ways to win. But this was different. This wasn't a competition with rules and referees and predetermined outcomes. This was survival. The afternoon passed in a blur of classes and whispers. Maya could feel the shift in the school's atmosphere. News of her confrontation with Connor had spread like wildfire. Some students looked at her with admiration. Others looked at her with pity. Most just looked at her like she was already dead. Connor and his crew were conspicuously absent from the hallways. That worried Maya more than their presence would have. Connor Walsh was the type of predator who attacked from ambush, and the quieter he got, the more dangerous he became. After final period, Maya was walking to her locker when Sophie caught up with her. "Maya, wait." Sophie was out of breath, her eyes wide with fear. "I just heard something. Connor's planning something for tomorrow. Something big." "What kind of something?" "I don't know the details, but I heard Madison talking on the phone. She mentioned something about your scholarship paperwork and your father's dojo." Maya's blood ran cold. "My father, they're going to go after him somehow, to get to you. I don't know more than that, but—" Sophie grabbed Maya's arm. "You have to be careful. Connor doesn't just want to beat you. He wants to destroy everything you love." Maya thought about her father's dojo, about the kids who trained there, about the building that was already struggling to stay open after her mother's medical bills had drained their savings. If Connor's family decided to target that dojo, they could destroy it. They had the money. They had the connections. They could make Daniel Johnson's life a living nightmare without ever leaving their mansions. "Thank you, Sophie," Maya said quietly, "for warning me. What are you going to do?" Maya looked down the empty hallway. Somewhere in this school, Connor Walsh was planning his next move. He had resources she could never match. He had power she could never fight. But she had something he didn't have. She had nothing left to lose. "I'm going to do what I always do," Maya said. "I'm going to fight." She walked out of Riverside Academy into the California sunshine, her mind racing with plans and contingencies. Connor Walsh had made this personal. He had threatened her family. That changed everything. Maya pulled out her phone and called her father. "Dad, I need to tell you something about what's really been happening at school." 20 minutes later, Daniel Johnson pulled up in front of Riverside Academy in his beat-up Honda Civic. His face was calm, but Maya could see the storm brewing behind his eyes. She had told him everything: the assault, the threats, the plan to target his dojo. "Get in," he said. Maya climbed into the passenger seat. "Dad, I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner." "Yes, you should have." Daniel pulled away from the school, his hands tight on the steering wheel. "But I understand why you didn't. Your mother raised you to fight your own battles. I respect that. So you're not pulling me out. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Do you remember what your mother said that last day in the hospital? The last thing she said before she closed her eyes. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. She said the strongest warriors know when to fight and when to wait. That's right. Your mother was the smartest person I ever knew. She understood something that most fighters never learn. Patience is power. Timing is everything. Daniel glanced at his daughter. This boy, Connor, he's going to come at you hard. He's going to try to provoke you into doing something stupid, something that gets you expelled or arrested. He wants you to throw the first punch so he can play the victim. I know. So don't give him what he wants. Don't fight him on his terms. Make him fight on yours. Maya frowned. How? Daniel smiled grimly. You're a 3-time state champion baby girl. You've beaten opponents who were bigger, stronger, and meaner than any spoiled rich kid. But you didn't beat them with your fists. You beat them with your mind. You studied them. You found their weaknesses. You waited for them to make mistakes, and then you struck when they weren't expecting it. This isn't a tournament, Dad. No, it's more important than any tournament. This is about who you're going to be. This is about the kind of woman you're going to become. Daniel reached over and squeezed her hand. Your mother gave her life to raise a warrior, not a fighter, a warrior. There's a difference. What's the difference? A fighter throws punches. A warrior wins wars. A fighter acts on emotion. A warrior acts on strategy. A fighter wants to hurt people. A warrior wants to protect them. Daniel's eyes met hers. Connor Walsh is a fighter. He acts on emotion. He wants to hurt you because you embarrassed him. That's his weakness. That's how you beat him. Maya felt something shift inside her. Her father was right. She had been thinking about this all wrong. She had been focused on surviving Connor's attacks, on defending herself, on enduring until graduation. But that wasn't how you won wars. You won wars by going on offense. I need to find out more about him, Maya said slowly. His weaknesses, his secrets, the things he doesn't want anyone to know. Daniel nodded. Everyone has secrets, especially people with that much to hide. And I need allies. I can't do this alone. The girl who warned you, Sophie, she knows what Connor is capable of. She has more reason to want him stopped than anyone. Maya's mind was racing now. There have to be others. Other victims. People he's hurt who are too scared to speak up. If I can find them, bring them together. Now you're thinking like a warrior. Daniel pulled into the dojo's parking lot. Your mother would be proud. Maya looked at the faded sign above the door. Johnson Martial Arts Academy. Strength through discipline. Her mother had helped design that sign back when Maya was just a little girl. Denise Johnson had believed in this place, had believed that martial arts could change lives, save lives. Connor Walsh wanted to destroy this dojo. Maya wasn't going to let that happen. She wasn't going to run. She wasn't going to hide. She wasn't going to break her promise to her mother by losing her temper and giving Connor the fight he wanted. Instead, she was going to do something much more devastating. She was going to expose him. She was going to find every victim, gather every piece of evidence, and build a case so airtight that not even the Walsh family's millions could make it disappear. And then she was going to watch Connor Walsh's empire burn to the ground. "Dad," Maya said as they walked toward the dojo entrance. "Yes, baby girl. Thank you for believing in me." Daniel Johnson put his arm around his daughter and held her tight. "I've believed in you since the first time you threw a punch. You were 4 years old and you knocked over a kid twice your size because he was picking on a smaller boy. Your mother cried. She was so proud." Maya smiled through her tears. "I remember." "Good. Remember that feeling. Remember who you are and where you come from. Connor Walsh has money and power and connections, but you have something he'll never have." "What's that?" Daniel opened the dojo door and the sound of children training filled the air. punches hitting pads, students counting in unison, the rhythmic thump of bodies hitting mats and getting back up again. "Heart," Daniel said. "You have heart, and heart wins every time." Maya walked into the dojo and felt the familiar peace wash over her. This was her home. This was her sanctuary. This was everything her mother had worked and sacrificed and died for. Connor Walsh thought he could take this away from her. He was wrong. Maya Johnson was done playing defense. The war had just begun. The next morning came too fast. Maya had barely slept. She had spent most of the night going through old news articles, social media posts, anything she could find about Connor Walsh and his victims. The list was longer than she had expected. 6 students had transferred from Riverside Academy in the past 3 years. 2 had been hospitalized. 1 had attempted suicide. All of them had one thing in common. They had crossed Connor Walsh. Maya arrived at school an hour early. The hallways were nearly empty, just a few teachers and staff members preparing for the day. She walked directly to her locker, half expecting to find it vandalized again. It was worse. Someone had stuffed it full of cotton balls, hundreds of them. They spilled out onto the floor when she opened the door, a white avalanche that drew stares from the few students nearby. A note was taped to the inside of the locker door. "Go pick cotton where you belong." Maya's hands trembled as she read the words. Not from fear, from rage. This wasn't just bullying anymore. This was something uglier, something that cut deeper than any punch or shove ever could. "Oh my God!" Sophie appeared at her side, her face pale with horror. "Maya, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Maya carefully removed the note and photographed it. Then she photographed the cotton balls. Then she opened her phone and added everything to her evidence folder. "You're not going to report it?" Sophie asked incredulously. "Not yet." Maya started scooping the cotton balls into a trash bag she had brought from home. She had learned from the first incident. Always be prepared. Reporting it now would just tip them off. They'd delete any security footage before I could request it. "But this is a hate crime. This is serious." "I know exactly what this is." Maya's voice was calm, but her eyes were burning. "And I know exactly who's responsible. The question isn't whether I'm going to make them pay. The question is how." Sophie helped her clean up the mess. By the time other students started arriving, Maya's locker looked completely normal. No one would ever know what had happened. Except Maya would know. And she would remember. First period was a blur. Maya sat in Mrs. Henderson's class and took notes like nothing was wrong, but her mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about the note, about the cotton balls, about the kind of hatred that could make someone think that was acceptable behavior. Connor Walsh sat in the back of the room watching her. She could feel his eyes on her like a physical weight. He was waiting for her to crack, waiting for her to run to the principal's office in tears, waiting for his victory. He would be waiting a long time. After class, Maya cornered Sophie in the hallway. "I need your help." Sophie's eyes darted nervously. "What kind of help?" "The other victims. Marcus, Trevor, the students who transferred. I need to contact them." Sophie went pale. "Maya, I don't think that's a good idea. Most of them don't want to talk about what happened. They just want to forget." "I understand that. But Connor isn't going to stop. He's not going to stop with me, and after I'm gone, he's going to find someone else. The only way to end this is to expose him, to bring so much evidence forward that not even his family can cover it up." Sophie was quiet for a long moment. "Marcus moved to Oakland. I have his number, but we haven't talked since he left. He was pretty messed up when he transferred. Will you reach out to him? Tell him there might be a way to get justice." "I don't know, Maya. What you're talking about is dangerous. If Connor finds out we're organizing against him, then we'll deal with that when it happens." Maya took Sophie's hands. "You told me yesterday that watching me stand up to Connor made you remember what it felt like to not be afraid. I need you to hold on to that feeling. I need you to be brave for just a little while longer. Can you do that?" Sophie's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared. I know. I'm scared too. But I'm more scared of what happens if we do nothing. Sophie nodded slowly. Okay. I'll call Marcus tonight. Thank you. Maya squeezed her hands. You're stronger than you know. The cafeteria was a minefield. Maya walked in with her head held high, but she could feel the hostile stares from Connor's territory. Madison whispered something to the girls around her, and they all burst into laughter, their eyes fixed on Maya. She got her food and sat at her usual table in the corner. Sophie joined her a few minutes later, looking nervous. They're planning something, Sophie whispered. I heard Tyler talking in the hallway, something about the parking lot after school. Maya nodded. She had expected this. Connor wasn't the type to wait patiently. He would want to send another message, and he would want to send it soon. How many of them? I don't know. At least Connor, Jake, and Tyler. Maybe more. Okay. Maya pulled out her phone and opened a mapping app. Show me exactly where in the parking lot. Sophie looked confused, but pointed to a spot on the screen. There, behind the gym. It's a blind spot, no cameras. Perfect. Maya smiled grimly. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. After lunch, Maya made a detour to the administration office. She approached the front desk with her most innocent expression. Excuse me, I'm new here, and I was wondering if there's a form I need to fill out for parking lot access. The secretary barely looked up from her computer. You need to fill out a vehicle registration form. Are you a junior or senior? Junior. Then you're assigned to the east lot. Forms are on the table by the door. Thank you. Maya picked up a form but didn't leave. I was also wondering about security. My parents are a little worried because I heard there have been some incidents in the parking lot. The secretary finally looked up, her expression guarded. What kind of incidents? Just things I've heard from other students. Vandalism, that sort of thing. We have security cameras throughout the campus, the secretary said stiffly. Students are perfectly safe here. Even behind the gym, I heard there are no cameras there. The secretary's eyes narrowed. Where did you hear that? Maya shrugged innocently. Just around. Is it true? I'm not at liberty to discuss our security arrangements with students. The secretary's tone had turned cold. Is there anything else I can help you with? No. Thank you for your time. Maya walked out of the office with the information she needed. The secretary's reaction had confirmed what Sophie told her. The blind spot behind the gym was real, and the administration knew about it. The question was whether they had left it that way deliberately, or simply hadn't bothered to fix it. Either way, Maya now knew exactly where Connor was planning to ambush her. The afternoon crept by slowly. Maya could feel the tension building with every passing hour. Students whispered when she walked by. Teachers avoided her eyes. Even the air seemed heavier, charged with anticipation. During sixth period, Maya received a text from an unknown number. Meet us behind the gym after school. Come alone, or don't. Either way, we'll find you. She screenshotted the message and added it to her evidence folder. Then she texted Sophie. I need you to do something for me. At exactly 3:15, I need you to call 911 and report a fight behind the gym at Riverside Academy. Can you do that? Sophie's response came immediately. What, Maya? What are you planning? Trust me. 3:15. Not a minute sooner. Not a minute later. This is crazy. You're going to get yourself killed. Just do it. Please. There was a long pause before Sophie's final message. Okay. 3:15. Please be careful. The final bell rang at 3:05. Maya gathered her things, slowly giving the other students time to clear out. She wanted the hallways empty. She wanted no witnesses to what she was about to do. At 3:10, she walked out the back entrance of the school and headed toward the gym. The parking lot behind the gym was empty except for 5 figures standing in a loose semicircle. Connor Walsh, Jake Miller, Tyler Brooks. 2 other football players Maya didn't recognize. They were all wearing Letterman jackets like some kind of uniform. Connor stepped forward, his smile wide and predatory. "You actually came. I'm impressed." Maya stopped about 20 feet away. "You invited me. It would have been rude not to show up." "Funny." Connor's smile faded. "You know why we're here." "Because you're scared." Maya's voice was steady. "You're scared because for the first time in your life someone isn't afraid of you. And that terrifies you." Connor's jaw tightened. "I'm not scared of anything." "Then why do you need 4 other guys to confront one girl half your size?" The football players shifted uncomfortably. Jake stepped forward, cracking his knuckles. "Maybe we should teach her some respect, Connor." "Not yet." Connor held up his hand. "I want to give her one more chance. A chance to apologize. A chance to get on her knees and beg for my forgiveness." Maya laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh. It was genuine amusement. "You want me to beg?" "That's what this is about." "That's exactly what this is about. You embarrassed me in front of the whole school. You made me look weak. Now you're going to fix that." "Or what?" Connor's eyes went cold. "Or we're going to hurt you, badly. And when we're done, we're going to go after your father's little karate school. We're going to shut it down. We're going to ruin him. And there won't be a damn thing you can do about it." Maya looked at the 5 boys surrounding her. She calculated distances and angles automatically, her training kicking in without conscious thought. Jake was the biggest threat. He was strong and aggressive. Tyler was slower, but had longer reach. The 2 unknowns were wild cards. And Connor himself was more bark than bite. She could take them. Even outnumbered 5-1, she could take them. Her body knew exactly what to do. A sweep to Jake's knee, an elbow to Tyler's solar plexus, a spinning kick to catch the 2 unknowns before they could react. Connor would run. Boys like Connor always ran when the odds turned against them. But if she did that, she would break her promise. She would give Connor exactly what he wanted. She would be expelled, probably arrested, and her father's dojo would be shut down anyway. Her mother's voice echoed in her head. "Promise me you'll be more than your fists." Maya made her choice. "No," she said simply. Connor blinked. "No what?" "No, I won't apologize. No, I won't beg. No, I won't give you the satisfaction of breaking me." Maya pulled out her phone and held it up. "This conversation has been recorded from the moment you started talking. Every threat, every racist insult, every promise to destroy my family. I have it all." Connor's face went white. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Maya pressed a button on her phone. Connor's voice played back crystal clear. "We're going to hurt you, badly. And when we're done, we're going to go after your father's little karate school." Jake lunged forward. "Give me that phone!" Maya sidestepped him easily, her feet moving in a pattern she had practiced 10,000 times. Jake stumbled past her off balance and confused. "Touch me and I upload this directly to every news station in San Diego." Maya's voice was ice. "Your father's a state senator, Connor. How do you think it would look if his grandson was caught on tape threatening to commit a hate crime?" Connor's chest was heaving. His hands were shaking. He looked like he wanted to murder her, but he didn't move. 3 minutes, Maya said, glancing at her watch. "In 3 minutes, the police will be here. Someone reported a fight behind the gym. When they arrive, they're going to find me standing here completely unharmed, and they're going to find you 5 surrounding me like you were about to attack. How do you think that's going to look?" Tyler grabbed Connor's arm. "Dude, we need to go. Right now." "This isn't over." Connor snarled at Maya. "No, it's not." Maya met his eyes without flinching. "But the next time you come after me, remember this moment. Remember that I had you and I let you go. Remember that the only reason you're walking away right now is because I chose to show you mercy." The sound of sirens in the distance made the decision for them. Connor and his crew ran for their cars, their bravado evaporating like morning mist. Maya stood alone in the empty parking lot, her heart pounding. Her hands finally shaking now that the danger had passed. She had won this round, but she knew Connor Walsh wasn't the type to accept defeat gracefully. The war was just beginning. 2 hours later, Maya sat in her father's dojo, surrounded by the sounds of children training. Sophie had called her 6 times since the parking lot incident. Marcus had texted to say he was willing to talk. A reporter from the local news had somehow gotten her number and left a voicemail asking for comment on an incident at Riverside Academy. The machine was starting to turn. Daniel Johnson sat down beside his daughter. "You want to tell me what happened today?" Maya showed him the recording from the parking lot. Daniel listened without interrupting, his face growing darker with every word. "You took a big risk," he said when it was finished. "Going there alone." "I wasn't alone. Sophie called 911, and I had my phone recording the whole time." "That's not what I mean." Daniel looked at his daughter with something like fear in his eyes. "You went there knowing they wanted to hurt you, knowing they outnumbered you 5-1. Why didn't you just stay away?" Maya was quiet for a moment. "Because staying away doesn't solve anything. Because if I hide from them, they win. Because Mom didn't raise me to run from bullies. Your mother also didn't raise you to be reckless." "I wasn't reckless, Dad. I had a plan. I had backup. I had evidence." Maya took her father's hand. "I know you're scared. I'm scared too. But this is bigger than just me now. Connor Walsh has hurt so many people. Sophie, Marcus, Trevor, all the others who were too afraid to speak up. Someone has to stop him." "Why does it have to be you?" Maya thought about her mother, about the promise she had made in that hospital room, about the legacy Denise Johnson had left behind. "Because I can," she said simply. "Because I have the skills and the courage and the support to do what needs to be done. And because if I don't do it, who will?" Daniel was quiet for a long time. Finally, he nodded. "Your mother would be proud of you. She would also be terrified, but mostly proud." "I know. What's your next move?" Maya pulled out her phone and showed him a list of names. "These are Connor's victims from the past 3 years. I'm going to contact every single one of them. I'm going to gather their stories, their evidence, their testimony. And then I'm going to take everything to the school board, the police, and the media. The Walsh family has powerful lawyers. They'll fight back hard. Let them." Maya's eyes were steady. "I've been fighting my whole life. I'm not going to stop now." Her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Sophie. "Marcus is in. He wants to talk tomorrow. He says he has evidence Connor doesn't know about, videos, photos, everything." Maya felt hope kindle in her chest. "It's starting," she whispered. "What's starting?" "Justice." Maya looked at her father with fire in her eyes. "It's finally starting." The next morning, Maya arrived at school to find police cars in the parking lot. Principal Morrison was standing on the front steps with 2 officers, his face pale and sweating. Sophie ran up to Maya before she could reach the entrance. "You're not going to believe this. Someone broke into the school last night. They trashed the administration office and stole a bunch of files." "What kind of files?" "Disciplinary records, incident reports, anything related to complaints against Connor Walsh." Sophie's voice dropped to a whisper. "They're trying to destroy the evidence." Maya's blood ran cold. She had expected Connor to fight back, but not this fast, not this desperately. "Did they get everything?" "I don't know, but it gets worse." Sophie grabbed Maya's arm. "Your scholarship file was one of the ones stolen. All your records, your financial information, everything." Maya felt the ground shift under her feet. Connor wasn't just trying to silence his victims anymore. He was trying to erase her, to make it impossible for her to stay at Riverside Academy. Maya Johnson. One of the police officers approached her. "We need to ask you some questions about your whereabouts last night." Maya stared at him. "What?" "We received an anonymous tip suggesting you might have been involved in the break-in." Sophie gasped. That's insane. Maya was at her father's dojo all night. There are witnesses. The officer's face remained impassive. We still need to ask some questions. Please come with us. Maya looked at the police cars, at Principal Morrison's satisfied smirk, at the students gathering to watch her humiliation. Connor Walsh had made his move. He was trying to frame her for his own crime. But as the officer led her toward the squad car, Maya felt something unexpected. Not fear. Determination. Connor Walsh had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He had escalated this from a schoolyard conflict to a criminal conspiracy. And unlike intimidation and harassment, criminal conspiracy left evidence. Evidence that Maya was going to find. Evidence that was going to destroy him. The police station smelled like stale coffee and desperation. Maya sat in a cold metal chair, her hands folded on the table in front of her, her eyes fixed on the two-way mirror across the room. She knew Connor's family had connections in the department. She knew this interrogation was designed to break her. She wasn't going to break. Detective Harris sat across from her, his notepad open, his pen tapping against the table in an irregular rhythm. He was a heavy-set man, with tired eyes and a wedding ring that looked too tight on his finger. Let's go over this one more time, he said. Where were you between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. last night? At my father's dojo, training, then sleeping. Anyone who can verify that. My father. The security cameras at the dojo. The GPS on my phone. Maya's voice was steady. I've already given you all of this information. Twice. Detective Harris leaned back in his chair. The thing is, Maya, we got an anonymous tip, very specific, said you were seen near the school around midnight. Anonymous tips aren't evidence. No, they're not. But they're enough to bring someone in for questioning. Harris studied her face. You've had some trouble at school lately, conflicts with other students, a fight in the hallway on your first day. I didn't fight anyone. I was assaulted. That's not what the witnesses said. Maya felt cold anger coiling in her stomach. What witnesses? Harris flipped through his notepad. Connor Walsh, Jake Miller, Madison Cole. All three gave statements saying you attacked Connor unprovoked. They're lying. Maybe, maybe not. Harris shrugged. But it's their word against yours, and they've got a lot more people backing up their story. The door opened. Daniel Johnson walked in with a woman Maya had never seen before. She was tall, black with sharp eyes, and an expensive suit that screamed lawyer. This interrogation is over, the woman said. I'm Vanessa Howard, representing Miss Johnson. Unless you're planning to charge my client, we're leaving. Detective Harris looked annoyed. We're just asking questions. You've been asking questions for 3 hours without allowing my client to contact an attorney. That's a violation of her rights. Vanessa placed a folder on the table. I also have documentation proving Miss Johnson was at her father's dojo during the time of the break-in. Security footage, phone records, time-stamped photographs from an automated system. Harris's face tightened. Where did you get all that? From a father who knew his daughter might need protection from exactly this kind of railroading. Daniel's voice was cold steel. My daughter didn't break into that school, but I think you already know that. Maya stood up. Her legs were shaky from sitting so long, but her voice was strong. Am I free to go? Harris exchanged a look with someone behind the two-way mirror. Maya couldn't see who, but she had a pretty good guess. Finally, Harris nodded. Don't leave town. Maya walked out of that interrogation room with her head held high, but inside she was shaking. Connor Walsh had tried to destroy her. He had used his family's connections to send the police after her to frame her for a crime she didn't commit, and he had almost succeeded. Outside the station, Daniel wrapped his arms around his daughter. I'm sorry, baby girl. I should have been there sooner. It's okay, Dad. I'm okay. Maya pulled back and looked at Vanessa Howard. Thank you. How did you know to come? Vanessa smiled grimly. Your friend Sophie called me. She found my number through some organization that helps victims of institutional harassment. Smart girl. Sophie did this. Sophie did a lot of things. Vanessa handed Maya her phone. Check your messages. Maya scrolled through her texts. There were dozens of them. Sophie had been busy while Maya was being interrogated. She had contacted every victim on the list. She had gathered statements, photographs, videos. She had even found a former Riverside Academy security guard who was willing to testify that he had been ordered to delete footage of Connor's attacks. "This is incredible," Maya breathed. "This is just the beginning," Vanessa said. "The Walsh family has been covering up their son's crimes for years, but cover-ups leave trails, and I'm very good at following trails." Maya looked at her father. "How are we paying for this?" "You're not." Vanessa's eyes were fierce. "I do this work pro bono for victims who can't afford representation. My little sister was bullied in high school. She didn't survive it. I made a promise at her grave that I would spend my life fighting for kids like her." She paused. "Kids like you." Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. She had spent so long fighting alone. She had been so sure that nobody would help her, that the system was rigged against people like her. But she wasn't alone anymore. The next morning, Maya walked into Riverside Academy like she owned it. Word of her interrogation had spread through the school overnight. Students whispered and pointed as she passed. Some looked at her with fear. Others looked at her with something that might have been respect. Connor Walsh was waiting for her by her locker. He looked different today. His usual smug confidence had been replaced by something darker, more desperate. His eyes were red like he hadn't slept. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides. "You think you've won something," he said quietly. "You think getting some lawyer makes you untouchable." Maya opened her locker calmly. "I don't think anything, Connor. I know." "You don't know anything." Connor's voice cracked. "You don't know what my family can do. You don't know who we are." "I know exactly who you are." Maya turned to face him. "You're a scared little boy who hurts people because it's the only way you can feel powerful. You're so afraid of being ordinary that you have to tear everyone else down just to feel like you matter." "Shut up. Your father doesn't respect you. He tolerates you. Your mother is too drugged up on prescription pills to even notice you exist. And your grandfather, the great Senator Walsh, is so ashamed of you that he's already written you out of his will." Connor's face went white. "How do you know that?" "People talk when they think no one's listening." Maya stepped closer to him. "I know everything, Connor, every secret, every lie, every skeleton in your family's closet. And if you don't leave me alone, if you don't leave Sophie alone, if you don't leave every single person you've ever hurt alone, I will burn your entire world to the ground." Connor's hand shot out and grabbed her arm. His grip was bruising. "You think you can threaten me? Do you know who I am?" Maya looked down at his hand on her arm. Then she looked up at his face. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "You have 3 seconds to let go of me." "Or what?" 1. Connor's grip tightened. 2. Something in Maya's eyes made Connor hesitate. He had seen that look before in the eyes of his football coach when someone made a mistake. It was the look of someone who knew exactly how much damage they could inflict. 3. Connor let go. Maya smoothed her sleeve where he had grabbed her. "That's the smartest decision you've made all week." She walked away without looking back. But she could feel Connor's hatred following her down the hallway like a physical force. This wasn't over. They both knew it. The confrontation she had been dreading was coming, and it was coming soon. Sophie found Maya during lunch. Her face was flushed with excitement. "Did you see the news?" "What news?" Sophie thrust her phone into Maya's hands. A local news website was open displaying a headline that made Maya's heart stop. "Exclusive Riverside Academy, accused of covering up years of student harassment." The article detailed everything. The pattern of bullying, the deleted security footage, the students who had been forced to transfer. the administration's complicity in protecting wealthy predators. Connor Walsh's name was mentioned 17 times. How did this happen? Maya asked, stunned. Vanessa. Sophie was practically bouncing with excitement. She leaked everything to the press. The school board is having an emergency meeting tonight. Principal Morrison has already been suspended pending investigation. Maya stared at the phone screen. This was bigger than she had ever imagined. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was about changing the entire system. There's more, Sophie said, her voice dropping. Marcus is coming. He's driving down from Oakland right now. He wants to be here when everything comes out. Marcus is coming back. He's not the only one. Trevor called me this morning. So did 3 other victims. They all want to tell their stories. They all want to stand up. Maya felt something break open inside her chest. For so long she had been fighting alone. For so long she had carried the weight of this battle on her own shoulders. But she wasn't alone anymore. The emergency school board meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. By 6:30, the parking lot was overflowing with cars. News vans from 3 different stations were set up outside. Parents and students filled the auditorium to capacity. Maya sat in the front row with Sophie on one side and Marcus on the other. Marcus was taller than she had expected, with haunted eyes and a scar on his forearm that he kept touching unconsciously. I never thought I'd come back here, he said quietly. I swore I would never set foot in this school again. Why did you? Maya asked. Marcus looked at her with something like wonder. Because you did what I couldn't. You stood up. You fought back. And you made me remember that some things are worth fighting for. The board members filed in and took their seats. Senator Walsh was conspicuously absent, but his lawyer was there, a shark in a $3,000 suit, who kept glancing at his phone like he was expecting bad news. Principal Morrison sat alone at the end of the table, his face gray, his hands trembling. The board chairman, a woman named Patricia Bennett, called the meeting to order. We're here tonight to address serious allegations against Riverside Academy regarding the handling of student harassment cases. We have several individuals who wish to speak. One by one, the victims told their stories. Sophie described her year of torment. The rumors, the isolation, the night she had taken a bottle of pills and prayed for the pain to stop. Marcus talked about the racial slurs carved into his locker, the bleach poured on his clothes, the moment he realized that nobody in authority was going to help him. Trevor, appearing via video call, showed the scars from his locker room accident. His voice broke when he described waking up in the hospital and learning that his attackers would face no consequences. Maya was the last to speak. She walked to the microphone and looked out at the crowded auditorium. She saw Connor Walsh sitting in the back row with his parents. His mother was crying. His father was staring at his phone, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. My name is Maya Johnson, she began. I transferred to Riverside Academy 3 weeks ago. On my first day, Connor Walsh grabbed me by my hair and slammed my face into a locker. He called me a racial slur and told me to go back to the ghetto where I belonged. The auditorium was silent. I didn't fight back. I didn't report it. I didn't run to the principal's office crying, because I knew from talking to other students that reporting wouldn't do any good. The system was designed to protect people like Connor Walsh, people with money, people with power, people whose families donate enough to get buildings named after them. Maya's voice grew stronger. But I'm not here to talk about myself. I'm here to talk about Sophie Chen, who tried to kill herself because nobody would help her. I'm here to talk about Marcus Williams, who had to leave his friends and his education because this school wouldn't protect him from racism. I'm here to talk about Trevor Okonkwo, whose face was destroyed by boys who faced no punishment. She looked directly at Connor. And I'm here to talk about Connor Walsh, not to condemn him, not to destroy him, but to tell the truth about what he did, because the truth is the only thing that can set any of us free. Connor stood up. His face was twisted with rage. This is ridiculous. She's lying. They're all lying. His father grabbed his arm. Sit down. No. Connor shook off his father's hand. I'm not going to sit here and let this scholarship trash ruin my life. Do you know who I am? Do you know who my family is? We know exactly who you are, Maya said quietly. That's the problem. Connor charged toward the front of the auditorium. Security guards moved to intercept him, but he was too fast. He reached Maya before anyone could stop him, his fist already swinging toward her face. Maya didn't think. Her body moved on pure instinct. She deflected Connor's punch with a rising block, redirecting his momentum past her left shoulder. In the same motion, she grabbed his wrist and twisted, using his own force to spin him around. Before Connor knew what was happening, he was face down on the floor, with Maya's knee on his back, and his arm locked in a position that would dislocate his shoulder if he moved. The entire auditorium gasped. "Don't move," Maya said calmly. "If you struggle, you'll break your own arm." Connor struggled anyway. He felt something pop in his shoulder and screamed. "I warned you!" Maya's voice was ice. "I've been warning you since the day we met, but you never listened. Boys like you never listen." Security guards finally reached them. Maya released Connor and stepped back. Her hands raised to show she wasn't a threat. "She attacked me!" Connor screamed, clutching his shoulder. "You all saw it. She attacked me." "Actually," Patricia Bennett said slowly, "what we saw was you charging at Miss Johnson and throwing the first punch. What we saw was Miss Johnson defending herself with remarkable restraint." She paused. "What we saw was a young woman with clearly advanced martial arts training who could have seriously injured you, but chose not to." The auditorium erupted in whispers. People were pulling out their phones looking up Maya Johnson's name. "Oh my God," someone said loudly. "She's a state karate champion. 3-time California state champion." The whispers turned to gasps. Maya stood alone in the center of the auditorium, breathing hard, her heart pounding. She hadn't wanted it to come to this. She had spent weeks trying to avoid exactly this moment. But sometimes there was no avoiding the fight. Sometimes you had to stand up and show the world exactly who you were. "My name is Maya Johnson," she said, her voice ringing through the sudden silence. "I am a 3-time California state karate champion. I have trained in martial arts since I was 4 years old. I could have hurt Connor Walsh every single time he attacked me. But I didn't. Because my mother taught me that true strength isn't about hurting people. It's about protecting them." She looked at the board members, at the parents, at the students who had watched her suffer in silence. "I didn't come to Riverside Academy to fight. I came to learn, to heal, to honor my mother's memory by being more than my fists could ever make me. But when I saw what was happening here, when I saw how this school was failing its students, I realized something important." Maya's eyes found Sophie in the crowd, found Marcus, found all the victims who had finally found the courage to speak. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't throwing a punch. It's standing still when everyone expects you to fall. It's speaking up when everyone wants you to be silent. It's fighting for justice even when the system is rigged against you. Connor was being helped to his feet by his parents. His shoulder was clearly injured. His face was streaked with tears of pain and humiliation. Maya looked at him one last time. "I hope you learn from this, Connor. I hope you become better than you are right now. Because the person you are today, he's going to end up alone, bitter and broken. And all the money in the world won't be able to fix that." She walked back to her seat and sat down between Sophie and Marcus. The auditorium was completely silent. Then slowly, someone started clapping. It was a parent in the back row. Then a student. Then another. And another. Within seconds, the entire auditorium was on its feet, applauding Maya Johnson, the girl who had stood up to a bully, the girl who had refused to break the girl who had finally given them all permission to hope. Maya sat very still, tears streaming down her face. She thought about her mother, about the promise she had made in that hospital room. She thought about all the battles she had fought to get to this moment. And for the first time since Denise Johnson died, Maya felt something she had almost forgotten existed. Peace. The board voted unanimously to expel Connor Walsh. They voted to fire Principal Morrison. They voted to implement a comprehensive anti-bullying program and to install a completely new security system with no blind spots. But more importantly, they voted to listen to all the voices that had been silenced for so long, to all the victims who had finally found the courage to speak, to Maya Johnson, the state karate champion who had won her most important fight without ever throwing a punch. The applause was still echoing in Maya's ears when her phone started buzzing. First one notification, then 10, then 100. By the time she walked out of the auditorium, her phone had crashed twice from the sheer volume of incoming messages. The video of Connor attacking her and her takedown had gone viral. 3 million views in the first hour, 7 million by midnight. By the next morning, Maya Johnson was trending nationwide. Karate champion destroys school bully, read one headline. The girl who wouldn't break, declared another. News networks from coast to coast were running the story. Interview requests flooded in from Good Morning America, CNN, The Today Show. Maya ignored them all. She sat in her father's dojo at 6 a.m. alone on the training mats watching the sun rise through the dirty windows. Her body ached from tension she hadn't realized she was carrying. Her mind was racing with thoughts she couldn't quiet. She had won, so why did she feel so empty? Daniel found her there an hour later. He sat down beside her without speaking, his presence warm and solid in the early morning chill. "You haven't slept," he said finally. "Couldn't. The phone calls. Not just that." Maya pulled her knees to her chest. "I keep thinking about Connor's face. When he was on the ground. When he realized he had lost everything. He deserved it. Did he?" Maya turned to look at her father. "I've been so focused on stopping him that I never really thought about why he is the way he is. His father treats him like a disappointment. His mother is barely present. His grandfather disowned him. He spent his whole life trying to prove he matters to people who don't care if he exists." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "You're more like your mother every day." "What do you mean?" "She could never hate anyone, not really. Even the people who hurt her. She always saw the wounded child inside the monster." Daniel put his arm around Maya. "It's a gift, and a burden." Maya leaned into her father's embrace. "I don't want to be famous. I don't want interviews and headlines. I just wanted it to stop." It has stopped. Connor is expelled. Morrison is fired. The system is changing because of what you did. "But at what cost?" Maya's voice cracked. "Sophie still has nightmares. Marcus still has scars. Trevor still can't look at his own reflection without flinching. Winning doesn't erase what they went through." Daniel held his daughter tighter. "No, it doesn't. But it gives them something they didn't have before." "What?" "Hope. The knowledge that someone cared enough to fight for them. That matters, Maya. That matters more than you know." The dojo door opened. Sophie walked in, her face puffy from crying, but her eyes bright with something new. "Maya, there's someone here to see you." Maya stood up, her body automatically shifting into a defensive stance. "Who?" Sophie stepped aside and Maya's breath caught in her throat. Connor Walsh stood in the doorway. His arm was in a sling. His face was pale and drawn. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. But it was his eyes that stopped Maya cold. The arrogance was gone. The cruelty was gone. What remained was something she had never seen in him before. Fear. And something that might have been shame. "Get out." Daniel's voice was ice. "You're not welcome here." "Dad, wait." Maya put her hand on her father's arm. "Let him speak." Connor took a hesitant step forward. His voice was barely a whisper. "I didn't come to cause trouble. I came to... I don't know. I don't know why I came." "Then leave." "I can't." Connor's voice broke. "I've been driving around all night. I went to the school, but it was closed. I went home, but my parents won't look at me. I went to my grandfather's house and his security guards wouldn't let me through the gate. He laughed bitterly. I have nowhere else to go. Maya studied him. This wasn't a trick. This wasn't manipulation. This was a boy whose entire world had collapsed, standing in the ruins, not knowing how to rebuild. Why here? She asked. Why come to the person you've been trying to destroy? Connor's eyes met hers. Because you're the only person who ever stood up to me. The only person who ever told me the truth about who I am. He swallowed hard. My whole life, everyone has told me I was special. I was better. I deserved everything I wanted just because of my name. But you looked at me and saw nothing, less than nothing, and I hated you for it. You tried to destroy my life. I know. You tried to frame me for a crime. I know. You put your hands on me. You called me racial slurs. You threatened my family. I know. Connor's voice was barely audible. I know everything I did. I've had all night to think about it. And He stopped, took a shaky breath. I don't have an excuse. There is no excuse. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Not because I got caught, not because my life is ruined, but because I finally understand how much pain I caused. And I hate myself for it. Sophie stepped forward, her small body trembling with rage. You're sorry. You're sorry. Do you have any idea what you did to me? I tried to kill myself because of you. I spent 2 weeks in a psychiatric ward because of you. I still can't sleep without pills because of you. I know, Connor whispered. I know, Sophie. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix anything. You're right. It doesn't. Connor looked at Sophie, and tears started streaming down his face. I used to think you were weak. That's why I targeted you. Because you were quiet and shy and didn't fight back. I thought that made you less than me. But I was wrong. You're stronger than I'll ever be. You survived what I did to you. You got back up. You're still here fighting even after everything. Sophie was crying now too. Why? Why did you do it? What did I ever do to you? Nothing. You did nothing. That's the worst part. Connor's voice broke completely. I hurt you because I could. Because it made me feel powerful. Because every time I made someone else feel small, I felt bigger. And I'm so ashamed of that. I'm so ashamed. Maya watched this exchange in silence. She saw the truth in Connor's tears. She saw the genuine remorse breaking through his walls. But she also saw Sophie's pain still raw after all these months, still bleeding from wounds that might never fully heal. Sorry isn't enough, Maya said quietly. Words are cheap. If you really want to change, you have to do something. Connor looked at her desperately. What? Tell me what to do. I'll do anything. You hurt a lot of people, Connor. Not just Sophie. Not just Marcus. Dozens of students over the years. Lives ruined. Dreams destroyed. Futures stolen. Maya stepped closer to him. If you want redemption, you have to earn it. You have to face every single person you hurt. You have to look them in the eye and take responsibility. You have to dedicate your life to undoing the damage you caused. How do I undo years of pain? I don't know, but figuring that out is your job, not mine. Maya's voice softened slightly. I'm not saying I forgive you. I'm not saying anyone should forgive you. But I am saying that people can change, that redemption is possible, if you're willing to do the work. Connor nodded slowly. What if I'm not strong enough? Then you'll fail, and you'll try again, and you'll keep trying until you get it right. That's what strength actually is, Connor. It's not bullying people weaker than you. It's getting up every time you fall. Daniel stepped forward. His voice was still cold, but something in his eyes had shifted. You want to prove you've changed? Come back here tomorrow morning. 6 a.m. We'll see how serious you are. Connor stared at him. What? My dojo teaches discipline, respect, self-control, all the things your money couldn't buy you. Daniel crossed his arms. If you want to learn what real strength looks like, show up tomorrow. If you're not here by 6:01, don't bother coming back." Maya looked at her father in surprise. "Dad, your mother believed everyone deserved a second chance," Daniel said quietly. "I'm not sure I believe that, but I'm willing to let this boy try to prove me wrong." Connor's face crumbled. For a moment, he looked exactly like what he was, a scared 17-year-old who had never learned how to be a decent human being. "Thank you," he whispered. "I'll be here. I promise." He walked out of the dojo without looking back. Sophie collapsed into Maya's arms, sobbing. "Why?" Sophie cried. "Why are you helping him after everything he did?" Maya held her friend tight. "Because if I don't, who will? Because if we don't show him another way, he'll just become a worse version of himself. Because my mother taught me that the hardest thing in the world is to show mercy to people who don't deserve it. I hate him. I know. You're allowed to hate him. You're allowed to never forgive him." Maya pulled back and looked into Sophie's eyes. "But you're also allowed to heal. And sometimes healing means letting go of the anger that's poisoning you from the inside." Sophie wiped her eyes. "When did you get so wise?" Maya laughed softly. "I had a good teacher." She looked at the spot where Connor had stood, then at her father's face. Something had shifted in the universe. Something small but significant. The monster had shown his human face, and Maya Johnson had chosen compassion over revenge. The next 3 days were chaos. Reporters camped outside Maya's house. Photographers followed her to school. Her phone rang so constantly that she finally turned it off and shoved it in a drawer. But in the middle of all that chaos, something unexpected happened. Connor Walsh showed up at the dojo at 5:45 a.m. He was wearing old sweatpants and a faded t-shirt. No designer clothes, no expensive watch, no entourage. Just a scared boy standing alone in the early morning darkness. Daniel made him sweep the floors, clean the bathrooms, wash the training mats by hand. For 3 hours, Connor did manual labor without complaining, without asking for breaks, without any of the entitlement that had defined his entire life. At 9 a.m., Daniel finally let him rest. "Why are you here?" Daniel asked. Connor was breathing hard sweat dripping down his face. "Because I said I would be." "That's not an answer." "Because I don't want to be the person I was." Connor's voice was raw. "Because when Maya looked at me, really looked at me, I saw myself through her eyes, and I hated what I saw." "Good." Daniel handed him a bottle of water. "That's the first step, seeing yourself clearly." "What's the second step?" "Pain." Daniel's voice was matter-of-fact. "Real change hurts. It means breaking down everything you thought you were and building something new. Most people can't handle it. They give up, go back to their old ways. I won't give up. We'll see." Daniel stood. "Same time tomorrow. And the day after that. And every day until I decide you're ready to actually start training." Connor nodded. "Yes, sir." It was the first time Connor Walsh had called anyone sir in his entire life. 3 weeks later, the national media had moved on to other stories. The reporters had packed up their cameras and left. Life at Riverside Academy had returned to something resembling normal. But nothing was really normal anymore. Sophie had started a peer support group for victims of bullying. 12 students showed up to the first meeting. By the third week, there were 45. Marcus had enrolled in online classes to finish his senior year. He was planning to apply to UCLA in the fall. Trevor had started physical therapy for his facial reconstruction. For the first time since the attack, he was talking about the future instead of the past. And Maya Johnson had become something she never wanted to be. A symbol. Schools across California started inviting her to speak. Anti-bullying organizations asked her to be their spokesperson. A publisher offered her a book deal. A movie producer wanted to buy the rights to her story. Maya turned them all down. "I don't understand." Sophie said one afternoon as they sat in the dojo watching the younger students train. You could be rich, famous. Why won't you take any of the deals? Because that's not why I did this. Maya watched a little girl practicing her kicks, her face scrunched in concentration. I didn't stand up to Connor for fame or money. I did it because it was right, because my mother taught me that you fight for people who can't fight for themselves. But think of all the good you could do with a bigger platform. I'm already doing good. Maya nodded toward the training mats where Connor Walsh was helping a 10-year-old boy with his stance. Look at that. 3 weeks ago, he was the worst bully I'd ever met. Now he's spending his Saturday teaching kids for free. Sophie watched Connor with narrowed eyes. I still don't trust him. You don't have to trust him. You just have to give him the chance to prove himself. And if he doesn't, if this is all an act, Maya smiled grimly, then I'll be here to stop him. Again. Connor walked over, wiping sweat from his forehead. His injured shoulder had healed, but he still moved carefully, like he was constantly aware of how much damage his body could do. Mr. Johnson wants me to help clean up after class, he said to Maya. Is that okay? It's not my dojo. I know, but... Connor hesitated. I wanted to make sure you were okay with me being here. I know you didn't ask for any of this. Maya studied him. The arrogance was gone from his posture. The cruelty was gone from his eyes. What remained was uncertainty, vulnerability, a desperate desire to be better than he had been. You're here because my father sees something in you, Maya said finally. Something worth saving. I'm not sure I see it yet, but I'm willing to keep looking. Connor nodded. That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is. Maya stood up. Come on, Sophie. We should get going. They walked out of the dojo into the California sunshine. Sophie was quiet for a long moment before speaking. Do you think he's really changed? I think he wants to change. I think he's trying. Maya shrugged. Whether he succeeds is up to him. What if he goes back to being a monster? Then we deal with it, but we don't punish people for crimes they haven't committed yet. Maya looked at her friend. My mother used to say that everyone is fighting a battle we can't see. Connor's battle is against himself, against everything he was taught to be. That's the hardest fight there is. Sophie was quiet again. Then softly, Your mother sounds like she was amazing. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. She was. God, she was. They walked in comfortable silence until they reached Sophie's car. As Sophie unlocked the door, her phone buzzed with a text message. Her face went white. What is it? Maya asked. Sophie showed her the screen. The message was from an unknown number. This isn't over. You think you've won, but the Walshes don't forget. Watch your back. Maya's blood ran cold. Senator Walsh? It has to be. He's the only one who would... Sophie's voice trembled. Maya, what do we do? Maya took out her own phone and screenshotted the message from Sophie's screen. Her hands were steady, but her mind was racing. Connor had been expelled. Morrison had been fired. The school board had reformed. But the Walsh family's power hadn't been touched. Senator Walsh was still one of the most influential politicians in California. And men like him didn't accept defeat gracefully. We stay alert, Maya said. We document everything, and we don't let them see us scared. But I am scared. So am I. Maya looked at her friend with fierce determination. But we've already proven that we can beat them. We exposed their secrets. We brought down their empire. If they come at us again, we'll be ready. Sophie nodded slowly. Together. Together. They hugged in the parking lot, two girls who had been through hell and come out the other side stronger. Two girls who refused to break no matter how hard the world tried to crush them. Two girls who had no idea that the real battle was just beginning. Maya arrived home to find her father sitting at the kitchen table with Vanessa Howard. Their faces were grim. "What's wrong?" Maya asked immediately. Vanessa slid a document across the table. "Senator Walsh filed a lawsuit this morning. He's suing you, your father, and Riverside Academy for defamation, emotional distress, and conspiracy." Maya's stomach dropped. "He can't do that. Everything we said was true." "The truth doesn't matter to men like him. He's trying to bury you in legal fees, drag this out for years, make your life so miserable that you'll agree to a settlement that includes a gag order. We can't afford a long legal battle." "No, you can't." Vanessa's eyes were fierce. "But I can. And so can the hundreds of people who've been following your story. I've already received offers from 3 different legal foundations to cover your defense costs, pro bono." Maya felt her knees go weak. "Why? Why would strangers help us?" "Because you gave them hope." Vanessa reached across the table and took Maya's hand. "You showed them that it's possible to stand up to powerful people and win. That's worth more than money. That's worth everything." Daniel put his arm around his daughter. "We're not alone in this fight, baby girl. We never were." Maya looked at the lawsuit documents, at her father's determined face, at Vanessa's fierce eyes, at the phone buzzing with messages of support from people she had never met. Senator Walsh thought he could break her with money and lawyers and threats. He had no idea who he was dealing with. Maya Johnson had faced down his grandson in front of the whole school. She had exposed years of institutional corruption. She had inspired dozens of victims to tell their stories and hundreds of strangers to believe in justice again. One politician wasn't going to stop her. Nothing was going to stop her. She picked up the lawsuit documents and looked at them one more time. Then she set them down with absolute calm. "Tell Senator Walsh something for me," Maya said to Vanessa. "What?" Maya's eyes were steel. "Tell him I'm not afraid. Tell him that every move he makes, I'll be ready. Tell him that he picked the wrong girl to mess with." Vanessa smiled. "Gladly." The war with the Walsh family had entered a new phase. But Maya Johnson was ready. She had her father beside her. She had Sophie and Marcus and all the other victims who had found their voices. She had Vanessa and an army of lawyers willing to fight for free. She had the truth on her side. And most importantly, she had her mother's spirit guiding her forward. Denise Johnson had taught her daughter to be a warrior. Not a fighter who threw punches, but a warrior who fought for what was right. A warrior who showed mercy to her enemies. A warrior who never gave up no matter how impossible the odds seemed. Maya was that warrior now, and she was just getting started. The lawsuit hit the news 3 days after Senator Walsh filed it. Every major network covered the story. The headlines were brutal. "Senator Walsh sues teenage girl for defamation." "Bullying victim faces multi-million-dollar lawsuit." "David versus Goliath. One girl's battle against political dynasty." Maya watched the coverage from her father's dojo, surrounded by her unlikely army of supporters. Sophie sat beside her, pale but determined. Marcus had driven down from Oakland again. Vanessa was on her phone coordinating with legal teams across the state. Even Connor was there, standing awkwardly in the corner, not sure if he belonged, but unable to stay away. "This is insane," Sophie whispered. "He's a senator. He has unlimited resources. How are we supposed to fight this?" "The same way we fought everything else," Maya said quietly. "Together." Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered it anyway. "Miss Johnson." The voice was female, professional, vaguely familiar. "This is Patricia Bennett from the Riverside Academy School Board. I have information that might help your case." Maya put the phone on speaker. "I'm listening." "Senator Walsh visited my office 2 days before his grandson was expelled. He tried to bribe me to make the whole situation disappear. $20,000 in cash." Patricia's voice trembled slightly. "I refused, but I recorded the conversation. I always record my meetings. I never thought I'd need the recordings, but now..." "You have evidence of attempted bribery." "I have evidence of a lot of things. The senator has been manipulating this school district for years. funding campaigns, threatening board members, covering up his family's crimes. I have documentation of all of it." Maya looked at Vanessa. The lawyer's eyes had gone wide. "Mrs. Bennett, would you be willing to testify?" There was a long pause. "I've spent 20 years building my career. If I testify against the Walsh family, they'll destroy me." "They're trying to destroy us right now," Maya said. "The only way to stop them is to stand together. You know that." Another long silence. Then, "Yes, I'll testify. Send your lawyer to my office tomorrow morning. I'll give her everything I have." The call ended. Maya looked around the room at the stunned faces surrounding her. "That was unexpected," Marcus said slowly. "That was a miracle," Vanessa corrected. "Bribery, intimidation, conspiracy. If Patricia Bennett's recordings are legitimate, Senator Walsh isn't just looking at a failed lawsuit. He's looking at criminal charges." Connor stepped forward hesitantly. "I might be able to help too." Everyone turned to look at him. Sophie's face hardened. Marcus crossed his arms. "Help how?" Maya asked carefully. "My grandfather keeps records, detailed records, of everyone he's bribed, threatened, or blackmailed over the years. He calls it his insurance policy." Connor swallowed hard. "I know where he keeps the physical copies. In a safe at his estate. I know the combination. Why would you help us destroy your own family?" Connor's eyes met Maya's. "Because my family destroyed me first. They made me into a monster. They taught me that power was everything, that people were things to be used." His voice cracked. "I don't want to be like them anymore. I want to be something else. Someone else." Daniel stepped forward. "Getting those records would be illegal. Breaking and entering. Theft." "I'm family. It's not breaking and entering if I have legal access to the property." Connor's jaw tightened. "And it's not theft if I'm taking evidence of crimes that need to be exposed." "That's a gray area at best." "I know, but I'm willing to take the risk." Connor looked at Maya with something like desperation. "Please, let me do this. Let me prove that I've really changed." Maya studied him for a long moment. She saw the fear in his eyes, the determination, the desperate need for redemption. "Okay," she said finally. "But not alone. I'm coming with you." "Maya, no." Daniel grabbed her arm. "This is too dangerous." "Everything we've done has been dangerous, Dad. But we didn't stop. We didn't give up." Maya gently removed her father's hand. "I started this. I'm going to finish it." The drive to the Walsh estate took 45 minutes. Connor drove his old beat-up Honda, the one his grandfather had given him, as a lesson in humility years ago. Maya sat in the passenger seat, her phone recording everything, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. "Are you scared?" Connor asked as they approached the gates. "Terrified." "Me too." He pulled up to the security booth. The guard recognized him immediately. "Mr. Walsh, your grandfather didn't mention you were coming. Surprise visit, family business." Connor's voice was steady, but Maya could see his hands trembling on the steering wheel. The guard hesitated. Then he pressed a button and the gates swung open. They were in. The estate was massive, but Maya barely noticed. Her focus was entirely on Connor as he led her through hallways and corridors she had never imagined existing. They passed portraits of Walsh ancestors, trophies and awards, all the accumulated proof of generations of power and privilege. Connor stopped in front of a heavy wooden door. "This is his private study. The safe is behind the portrait of my great-grandfather. Security cameras. Disabled. My grandfather values privacy over security in his personal spaces. He never imagined anyone in the family would betray him." Connor pushed open the door. The study was dark, but he moved through it with the confidence of someone who had been here many times before. He stopped in front of a massive portrait and lifted it away from the wall. The safe was exactly where he said it would be. "The combination is his wedding anniversary. Connor said quietly. July 14th, 1965. He's sentimental about the strangest things. He spun the dial. Left, right, left. The safe clicked open. Clicked. Inside were stacks of files, folders, documents. Connor started pulling them out, his hands moving quickly. Maya held open a bag while he loaded it. What is all this? Everything. Bribery records, blackmail evidence, payoffs to police, judges, politicians. Connor's voice was hollow. This is how the Walsh family built their empire, not through hard work or talent, through corruption, through fear. Connor. The voice came from the doorway. They both spun around. Senator Richard Walsh stood there, his silver hair perfectly combed, his expensive suit immaculate. Behind him stood two security guards with hands on their weapons. I wondered when you would finally betray me, the senator said calmly. I just didn't expect you to bring company. Maya's heart stopped. They were trapped. No way out. No backup coming. Grandfather, Connor's voice shook. I can explain. There's nothing to explain. You're stealing from me. You've brought an enemy into my home. Senator Walsh stepped closer, his eyes cold as ice. I gave you everything. Everything. And this is how you repay me. You gave me money. You gave me power. You gave me protection from consequences. Connor stood his ground. But you never gave me the one thing I actually needed. And what's that? Love. Connor's voice cracked. You never loved me. You loved what I represented. The Walsh legacy. The family name. But me, Connor, the actual person, you never even saw me. Senator Walsh laughed. It was a cold, empty sound. Love. This is about love. You're destroying our family because you didn't get enough hugs as a child. I'm destroying our family because our family destroys people. Connor gestured at Maya. This girl, her friends, dozens of students over the years. You taught me that people were tools to be used and discarded. You made me into a monster. I made you strong. No, you made me cruel. There's a difference. Connor picked up the bag of files. I'm done being cruel. I'm done being a Walsh. Senator Walsh's face twisted with rage. If you walk out that door with those files, I will destroy you. I will destroy everyone you care about. I will make sure you never work, never succeed, never have a moment's peace for the rest of your miserable life. You can try. Maya stepped forward, her voice steady despite her terror. But people have tried to destroy me before. I'm still standing. The senator's cold eyes locked onto hers. You. The scholarship girl. The one who started all this trouble. The one who exposed your grandson for what he was. The one who united his victims. The one who's going to take these files to every news station in the country. You think you've won something here? You think this is over? Senator Walsh laughed again. I have lawyers who will tie you up in court for decades. I have connections that will make sure those files never see the light of day. I have more money than you'll ever earn in your entire life. You're right. You have all of that. Maya lifted her chin. But I have something you don't. And what's that? The truth, and people who believe in it. Maya held up her phone. This entire conversation has been live streaming to 3 different social media platforms. 4 million people are watching right now. They've seen your threats. They've heard your admissions. And they're not going to forget. Senator Walsh's face went white. That's illegal. Recording without consent. We're in a one-party consent state. And Connor consented. Maya smiled grimly. Your own grandson just helped bring down your empire, Senator. How does that feel? For one terrible moment, Maya thought the senator would order his guards to stop them by force. His hands were shaking with rage. His eyes were wild with fury. But then he looked at the phone in Maya's hand, at the numbers climbing on the screen, millions of witnesses, millions of people who would know exactly what happened if anything happened to her. He stepped aside. Get out, he whispered. Get out of my house. Connor walked past his grandfather without a word. Maya followed, her heart pounding, her legs shaking. They didn't run. They didn't look back. They just walked step by step until they were through the front door and back to Connor's car. Only when they were through the gates and on the main road did Maya allow herself to breathe. "We did it," Connor said, his voice trembling. "We actually did it. We did it." They drove in stunned silence for several minutes. Then Connor pulled over to the side of the road and started crying. Great heaving sobs that shook his entire body. All the fear and tension and years of pain pouring out in a flood that he couldn't control. Maya reached over and put her hand on his shoulder. She didn't say anything. She just let him cry. "I'm sorry," Connor managed between sobs. "I'm sorry for everything, for what I did to you, to Sophie, to Marcus, to everyone. I know. I don't deserve forgiveness. I don't deserve any of this." "Maybe not." Maya's voice was gentle. "But you did the right thing tonight. You chose truth over family. That matters." Does anything I do now matter after everything I've done?" Maya thought about her mother, about the promise she had made in that hospital room, about the long, painful journey that had brought her to this moment. "Yes," she said finally. "It matters. Every choice matters. Every day is a chance to be better than you were the day before." She squeezed his shoulder. "You're not the person you were 3 months ago, Connor. And you don't have to be him ever again." Connor wiped his eyes. "What happens now?" Maya looked at the bag of files sitting between them. The accumulated evidence of decades of Walsh family corruption. The key to bringing down an empire. "Now we finish this." The files made national news within hours. Senator Walsh's carefully constructed legacy crumbled overnight. Criminal investigations were launched in 3 different states. His political allies abandoned him. His donors demanded their money back. His own party called for his resignation. 2 weeks later, Senator Richard Walsh was arrested on 17 counts of bribery, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. The lawsuit against Maya was dropped. The day of the arrest, Maya stood outside the federal courthouse with Sophie, Marcus, and her father. Reporters crowded around them, shouting questions, snapping photographs. "Miss Johnson, how does it feel to bring down a senator? What's next for you? Are you planning to write a book? There are rumors of a movie deal." Maya ignored them all. She was watching the courthouse doors, waiting. Senator Walsh emerged in handcuffs, surrounded by federal agents. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His silver hair was disheveled. His face was blank with shock, like he still couldn't believe this was happening. For one moment, his eyes met Maya's across the crowd. She didn't gloat. She didn't smile. She just looked at him with the same calm, measured gaze she had given his grandson on that first day in the hallway. Senator Walsh looked away first. The agents led him to a waiting car. The door closed. The car drove away. It was over. Sophie grabbed Maya's hand. "You did it. You actually did it." "We did it," Maya corrected. "All of us. Together." Daniel wrapped his arm around his daughter. "Your mother would be so proud." Maya felt tears streaming down her face. She didn't try to stop them. "I hope so, Dad. I really hope so." 3 months later, Maya Johnson stood on a stage in front of 2,000 people. She was the keynote speaker at a national anti-bullying conference, one of dozens of invitations she had received since the Walsh scandal broke. She had accepted this one because of what came with it: a full scholarship to Stanford University, awarded by a foundation dedicated to supporting victims of institutional harassment. Her future was secured. Her father's dojo was thriving. Sophie had been accepted to Berkeley. Marcus was planning to study law. Trevor had completed his reconstructive surgery and was learning to smile again. And Connor Walsh was sitting in the front row, wearing a simple black suit, his face a mixture of pride and lingering shame. "I want to tell you a story." Maya began, her voice clear and strong. "It's a story about a girl who got knocked down. A girl who was told she didn't belong. A girl who had every reason to give up, but chose to stand instead." The audience was silent, hanging on her every word. But this isn't really my story. This is the story of everyone who has ever been bullied. Everyone who has ever been told they're not good enough. Everyone who has ever felt alone in a crowd of people who refuse to see them. Maya's eyes found Sophie in the audience, then Marcus, then her father. I used to think that strength meant fighting back, that being strong meant never showing weakness. But I was wrong. Real strength isn't about your fists. It's about your heart. It's about getting up when life knocks you down. It's about standing up for others even when you're scared. It's about choosing love over hate, forgiveness over revenge, hope over despair. She paused, gathering herself for what came next. I want to talk about my mother for a moment. Her name was Denise Johnson. She was a warrior. Not because she could fight, but because she never stopped loving, even when she was sick, even when she was dying. She loved with her whole heart every single day of her life. Tears were streaming down Maya's face, but her voice stayed strong. On the last day of her life, she made me promise something. She made me promise to be more than my fists, to use my strength to protect, not to punish, to show mercy to my enemies, to believe that people can change. Maya looked directly at Connor. I almost broke that promise, more than once. There were moments when I wanted to hurt the people who hurt me, when I wanted revenge instead of justice, when I wanted to be cruel instead of kind. Connor's eyes were wet with tears. He nodded slowly. But I didn't break my promise, because every time I was tempted, I heard my mother's voice. I remembered who she wanted me to be, and I chose to be that person even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Maya took a deep breath. So here's what I want to say to everyone in this room, to everyone watching this speech, to everyone who has ever been bullied or hurt or made to feel like they don't matter. Her voice rose, filling the auditorium. You matter. You are worthy. You are strong. Not because of what you can do with your hands, but because of what you carry in your heart. The kindness, the courage, the stubborn refusal to let cruelty have the last word. And to the bullies watching this, to the people who use their power to hurt others, I want you to know that it's not too late. It's never too late to change, to choose differently, to become someone worthy of the life you've been given. Maya stepped back from the podium. My name is Maya Johnson. I am a 3-time California State Karate champion. I am the daughter of Denise and Daniel Johnson. I am a survivor. I am a warrior. And I am proof that one person standing up for what's right can change the world. The audience erupted in applause. 2,000 people on their feet, cheering, crying, believing. Maya looked out at the sea of faces and felt something she had almost forgotten existed. Peace. After the speech, Maya found a quiet corner away from the crowds. She needed a moment alone, a moment to process everything that had happened. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your mother would be proud. So am I. Keep fighting, baby girl. Maya stared at the message. The number was unfamiliar, but the words were her father's. She smiled and put the phone away. A shadow fell across her. She looked up. Connor was standing there, his hands in his pockets, his face uncertain. That was an amazing speech, he said quietly. Thank you. I meant what I said before, about wanting to change, about wanting to be different. Connor hesitated. But I need to know, do you think it's really possible for someone like me to become someone good? Maya thought about her mother, about Sophie, about Marcus and Trevor and all the other victims who had found the courage to tell their stories. I think it's possible for anyone to change, she said finally. But wanting to change isn't enough. You have to do the work, every day, for the rest of your life. Yo, that sounds exhausting. It is. Maya smiled slightly. But it's worth it. Connor nodded slowly. Will you help me? I know I don't deserve it. I know I haven't earned your trust. But I don't know how to do this alone. Maya extended her hand. You're not alone. Not anymore. Connor took her hand. They shook once firmly. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But it was a start. 6 months later, Maya arrived at Stanford University. She moved into her dorm room, decorated it with photographs of her mother, and started her first day of classes. She was studying psychology. She wanted to understand why people hurt each other, and more importantly, how to help them heal. Sophie texted her every day. Marcus called every weekend. Her father sent care packages filled with homemade food and handwritten notes of encouragement. And once a month, she received a letter from Connor Walsh. He was volunteering at a youth center in Los Angeles, working with kids from difficult backgrounds, teaching them the same lessons he was still learning himself. His letters were awkward, honest, sometimes painful to read. He wrote about his struggles, his setbacks, his small victories. He never asked for praise or validation. He just wanted her to know that he was trying. On the anniversary of her mother's death, Maya visited the cemetery alone. She sat beside the grave for hours, telling Denise everything that had happened, everything she had accomplished, everything she had learned. "I kept my promise, Mama," she whispered, as the sun set over the hills. "I was more than my fists. I protected people. I showed mercy. I believed that people could change." A warm breeze rustled through the trees. For just a moment, Maya could have sworn she smelled her mother's perfume. "I miss you every day, but I know you're watching. I know you're proud." Maya pressed her hand against the cool stone of the grave. "I love you, Mama, forever and always." She stood up, wiped her tears, and walked back to her car. There was still work to do, still battles to fight, still people who needed someone to stand up for them. But Maya Johnson was ready. She was a warrior, a survivor, a champion. And this was only the beginning. Because the strongest warriors are not those who never fall. They are those who fall and rise again, who face impossible odds and refuse to surrender, who carry their pain as a reminder of how far they have come, not as a burden that holds them back. Maya Johnson had been knocked down more times than she could count. She had been beaten, threatened, framed, and nearly destroyed. But she was still standing. And she would always stand. Because that was who she was. That was who her mother had raised her to be. That was the legacy of Denise Johnson carried forward in the heart of her daughter, spreading out into the world like ripples on a pond, touching lives that would never know her name, but would forever feel her love. Some people are born into power. Others have to fight for every inch of ground they stand on. Maya Johnson had fought harder than most. She had lost more than most. But she had also gained something precious. She had gained herself, and no one would ever take that away.